Thank you very much. Now I'll sing our Lord's Prayer, followed by our meditation and lesson with Reverend Myra.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors, and leave us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever.
And as we open to the presence and the power of God within us, we allow that glory to come shining through. As we look around today, we see that Spirit of God. And as I watched you all coming in, and as you have known each other, whether it's been for a long time or whether it's a very short time, you feel and know that living presence of God that is the power and the glory of the truth of who and what you are. And so let us take this knowing within as we close our eyes and we allow ourselves to become settled in our seat. Relax our bodies, relax our minds, and we become present to this now moment. Allow yourself to become aware of your breathing. And know that with your breath, there is nothing you need to change or do. Simply notice your breath, for it is the breath of life, the very breath of God. Breathing in God, breathing in life, we allow ourselves to become present to the power and the glory within. What a tremendous realization it is to know that we are not merely human. What a great liberation it is to know that we are more than all we think and do on a human level. For there is a mighty spirit within us that is forever propelling us forward to know the power and the glory of God even more fully. It is the divine within each and every one of us. And today we allow the divinity within to be set on fire, to be ignited with new passion, new aliveness. And we say yes to God. We say yes to all that God would have us do and be are the way that God gets around. I invite you to imagine a beautiful flame within the very center of your being. And as you see this flame, see it growing brighter and bigger. And allow it to go even beyond that within your being, so that all parts of you are now alive with the living presence, with the very glory that is God. And this magnificent flame within you extinguishes out all that is not of God, all those thoughts and ideas, all those experiences that are not the truth, and you allow this very flame, this very divine spark of God that is so bright within you, to now be the truth from which you live. Feel its power. Feel its energy as we move now into deep reflection. You are the very presence of God, the power and the glory of God. And the spark within you is now lit, the beautiful flame that is the truth of who you are. And so it is, in the name and through the power of the living Christ. Amen. So I have a question for you, and I think you know the answer because only you can know the answer. So this is my question. What makes you come alive like a firework? You know, the beautiful fireworks that we see around the 4th of July. How many of you love those? Do you make an effort to go see them? So one of you. Okay. One of you. All right. Well, I'm with you. I'll tell you something, I am like a little kid with fireworks, and you'd think I'd never seen them before, and I am, how old am I? I'm going to be 62 next month. Like I was going to say next year. Oh my gosh. No, next month. But every time I go and I see fireworks for whatever, I am, one of those, and if I knew better, I'd be embarrassed. But I don't know better. And so and my husband laughs because he's like, really? Like you've never seen these before? And, and for as long as they go, I'm still like oohing and awing, and they've gone on for 10 minutes, and you'd think I never saw the first 9 minutes worth. I'm like, I think I love that one, and it's just a wild thing. And so I really love them, and I don't mind the booms and all of that and the smells. I'll take it all because the sight of the fireworks are so exciting to me. And I'm going to say, and I don't know this is true, but I think it sounds pretty good. So I'm going to say that the firework reminds me of the fire within. So let's just go with that, okay? We're going to say that that's the spark of God within. But I think whether I really know that when I'm in that experience, I think that there is a part of us that knows that. I think there's a part of us that connects with that excitement, with that energy, with that power. And it's kind of transcendent beyond our everyday, ordinary experience, right? And we are alive in that moment. And everything falls away in that moment. I'm not thinking about what chores do I have to do tomorrow, or what phone calls, did I do the laundry? I'm not thinking about anything, but I'm just being in that glorious moment. And I do think that there is a part of us that knows the truth, that we are alive in those moments. So I'm back to my question. What brings forward that firework energy in you? When do you feel real alive or on fire and excited? Does anybody ever feel that way? Right? Do you ever feel that? Because I'm just looking for a little response. Yeah? Do you ever feel that way? Yes! Yay! You know what? I'm going to call on you the whole time I'm here. I'm just going to call on you. So, yes, there are things that do that. And one of my favorite teachers of all time, her name is Angeles Area, and she's a cultural anthropologist. And she studied cultures throughout the world, and she studied traditions to kind of look for the spiritual components that are transcendent and that are inclusive of all traditions. And she says that there are 4 questions that medicine men or shamans or medicine women across the world ask when somebody is looking to come alive, when somebody is looking to feel, that liveness, that spark. And so these are the 4 questions. And the first one is, what makes you dance? And so that's all about, where do you feel your joy? Where do you feel your enthusiasm, right? The second question is, what makes you sing? Now you can ask Vita, I think we should ask her, what makes you sing, right? So what makes you sing? What makes you want to share what is in your soul and pour it out as an expression of who and what you are? What makes you sing? What makes you speak your truth? What makes your soul celebrate life? And how do you get that out into the world? And so then the third question is, what are the stories that enchant you? What are the stories that delight you? And when you think about this question is really about, what do you resonate with that excites you? Like for me, I love stories of great transformation. I love those stories about when somebody goes from here to here, and then maybe they go back here, but then they go here again. I love stories that sound miraculous in small ways and in big ways. But I love stories about that. I love stories about courage and bravery, probably because I had to learn a few things about that in my own life. So ask yourself, what are the stories that enchant you, that delight you, that grab your attention, that you always gravitate toward? And then the fourth question is, when do you commune in God? When do you surrender into the stillness and the presence of God for your own sustenance and for your own guidance? Nobody can commune with God for you. Somebody might be able to go buy your groceries, but nobody can commune with God for you. That's an inside job that you must do for yourself. And when we allow ourselves to commune with God, and when we allow ourselves into that sweet surrender, what happens is we find our own guidance. And we are replenished and we are rejuvenated to go forward with even more passion, with even more aliveness in life. So I find that these 4 questions are very, very helpful in what brings forward that aliveness and how do we ignite that fire that lives within ourselves. Now, I was thinking about an example that maybe you could relate to. And so the first person that came to me is somebody I don't know, but it is the Apostle Paul from the Christian Bible, or we would call it the New Testament. And if you think about the Apostle Paul, what I would say is that he danced. He got joyful and excited about the teachings of Jesus, right? He was all zealous and he was on fire about it, and he couldn't stop preaching about Jesus' teachings. And I think that that is really interesting because if you know anything about Paul, you're going to remember that he used to be zealous before, and he was back then, he was Saul, and he hated Christians, and he hated Jesus, and he wanted to have them murdered and killed, and he was passionate about that. Well, then he had this little experience. We'll call it a conversion experience. And he saw Jesus and he heard Jesus' voice and he realized that it was something very different than what he thought. He was moved by a personal experience. And so supposedly and metaphorically, he couldn't see for 3 days, meaning he was blind to the Spirit of God within. And then he was able to see with new eyes. And that's when his conversion happened. And so his dance was, his joy was finding the Spirit of God. And he started singing. He started speaking that with power and enthusiasm. And he encouraged many, many people to come and know the truth that had changed him. And the stories... He loved the stories of Jesus' teachings. He loved the parables as well as the stories about the healings, the stories of freedom and possibility. And so he was nurtured by those stories as he was living them himself. And by turning within, he allowed the Spirit of God to transform him. And it directed him. And he wrote these wonderful epistles, which basically means elegant teaching letters that are recorded, of course, in the Bible. And they were letters of inspiration. They were letters of encouragement. They were letters of instruction so that other people could know what he knew. And they could live by the Spirit of God. They could develop communities. They could develop oneness. That was part of what ignited him. And so if it weren't for him, we probably wouldn't have the Christian faith today in the way that we've had it. And, when you think about Paul, so here he is. He's lived these 4 questions. But if we know a little bit more about Paul, we're going to recognize that he wasn't a perfect person. In fact, a lot of people don't really care for Paul. He said derogatory things about women, and he said derogatory things racially, and he kind of changed his tune according to his audience periodically. But I think we have to give him a break. I mean, he lived 2,000 years ago. So, culture was different then. Things were different. But I say that he is a great example because here he is, somebody that was ignited from that inner divine spark. And he wasn't a scholar. He wasn't terribly educated. He didn't have any money to go do these things. But what he had was that voice of God that he was open and receptive to. And he allowed it to change him and lead him. And he became on fire and alive with what was inside him. And I think that we're a lot like Paul. And we're a lot like him in the sense that if we listen to that inner fire, if we listen to that voice that says, what am I? Who am I? And what is mine to do with passion and aliveness? That Spirit of God will direct us in amazing and incredible ways. Now, if you think about yourself, and a lot of people are very kind of, I'll say, chill and mellow. And if you ask them how they're doing, I have a friend, if every time I ask him how he's doing, he always says, "I'm doing the best I can. I'm just doing." I want to say, really? That's the best you got? Doing the best I can. So. But if we're alive to that fire inside, it's not always what we're doing, but where we're coming from, who we're being, that fire is about. There is a very different energy if I am going to take care of my granddaughter and say, well, it's 2 o'clock, I'm going to go get Harlow at 4. It's 2 o'clock, and in 2 hours, I get to get my youngest granddaughter, and she is a wild thing. She's got red hair, and she has lived up to that like nobody's business. Do you notice the difference on where I'm coming from? Oh, it's 2 o'clock. Okay, I got 2 more hours. Well, let's see what else I can do before that. So I've got a list of about 14 things to do. Maybe I should pick 3 of those. No fire, no awareness that this moment is filled with the Spirit of God. Now, this is really true. It sounds kind of funny. So I drove up from Chicago, and I went to pick up my daughter, Danny, and her little daughter, Harlow, from the airport. So I'm waiting. I'm in the Milwaukee airport, and I'm waiting, and their plane's late, and so I'm waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And then I see, they're the last ones. Oh, and I'm looking, and I'm like, are they even coming at all? And then I see this little redhead, she's this big. And I see her, and I'm like, and she's, oh, sorry. And then she's like, Grandma! And she comes running down, and we're like, ah! And I didn't know it because I have no self-control, but I didn't know it, but there are adults walking, right, and they're doing things, and my daughter is there, and she's going, yep, that's my mom, to strangers, and they're all laughing. And I did happen to notice, and we're hugging, and we're having this wild thing, Harlow and I, and and my daughter said, did you know that there are people behind you just laughing? And I thought, are you trying to shame me? Because I kind of feel like you're trying to shame me. But that is a classic example of being alive with the fire within. And what was that fire? That was love, right? Wasn't it love? So when we are aware that this fire is within us, you don't have to make a fool of yourself like I do. That's not what I'm advocating. However, if it is who you are, have at it. But be alive to the fire within, because that is the presence of God that lives and moves, as we heard today, and has its very being in each and every one of us. And it makes a difference from saying, oh, 2 o'clock, okay, I got 2 more hours to get things done, and 2 o'clock. Wow, in 2 more hours, I'm going to see Harlow, and that's going to be amazing. And what can I do? What would be meaningful to do for the next couple of hours? See, that little kid's alive. Yes, maybe not that way, but yes. So we feel that spark, we feel that aliveness, and it makes such a difference. So, I started and I was talking about fireworks. And I was reading this blogger. His name is Richard Watkins. And he talks about 4 kinds of fireworks that express the passion and the fire within us. So the first one are sparklers, and we all know what those are, right? And then there's the big rockets, and those are the ones that go way up there, and then so we love those too. And then there's these things called Catherine wheels. Do you know what those are? They go up and they kind of spiral, and then when they go off, they're like all of these like spots. They kind of look like single dots, and they're like, but they're little, and to me they look like ancient firecrackers maybe. But they're kind of chaotic, and they're like a million little spots all over, and then they're gone. But those are what you call Catherine wheels. And then the last one is what we call Roman candles. And we see them, they go up and they got the little tail and they go, woo, those ones, right? So there's these 4 kinds of fireworks. And what Richard Watkins says is that when we ignite that passion within us, that we are actually kind of igniting those fireworks so we're alive. So like the sparklers are the ones that are those things that are tangible. They're those things that we can hold in our hand. Maybe they're short-lived. They're the ones that are like, I'm looking forward to a vacation. And I'm really excited, or maybe there's a special event, or there's something that's kind of tangible, but then it's over. And so that's a sparkler that gets us excited. And then the other thing that we have is when we have those big ones, those big rockets, those are the kinds of ways we light our fire by the things that take a lot of work. They take a lot of energy, they take a lot of commitment. Maybe it's a long-time achievement or it's a big goal. And what came to mind for me is, let's say that you know somebody who is trying to conceive and they haven't had a child, and so they go through a big process, and maybe there's infertility issues, and they go through all kinds of things. And then finally, they have a child one way or another. That is like a big rocket. It's like a big achievement. I know for myself, when I think of the big rocket, I started here back in 1995. It was springtime, and I had tried to come 2 other times. And the first time I came at the wrong time, and I walked in, and those doors are open, and I was really late. And so when I walked in, you could hear me coming up the stairs. I didn't know what time it was. So these people in the rows here, they all started looking at me. And so I got up to the top and I saw all these faces. And then I just turned around and went right down those stairs and went out the door. I went, oh, too much pressure, too much pressure. So I went away. The next time I came, it was daylight savings time, and I was an hour late. So I came and I thought I was really on time and really early. And as I got to the door, I was hearing something that sounded very much like a love offering or an ending. And I went, oh, not again. Why can I not tell time? I used to live literally a block away. Why can I not do this? So the third time was in the spring of 95. I dragged my kids with me, and it was like being an army. I said, we're going in, we're going in. And so we came in, and Reverend Don Miller was here, and we came in, and it was beautiful, and it was wonderful, and I loved it. It was back in the spring of 95. And so when I think about that big rocket, this church, this community, was the beginning of that big rocket for me. I had always been a lifelong seeker, a spiritual person for many, many, many years, since I was a kid. But this was my anchor, and this was my home, right in this very room. And because of the love in this community and the beauty of the unity message, I have devoted my life since 1995 to unity. And it has been a huge experience, and it's had lots of different things. I mean, I was here, I used to teach classes, I used to platform, I used to give messages, I was on the board, all those kinds of things here. Then I became a licensed unity teacher, and then I went on to ministerial school. And then I did all sorts of things, and now I'm on the board for Unity Worldwide Ministries, on their international board. And I thought, oh, because I've always said, whatever I can do for unity, that's what I want to do. And so now I'm on the board, and I thought that was plenty. In fact, it was more than enough, thank you. It's a lot of work. And then I just got elected, so I'm second vice chair, which means in 2 years I'll be president of the board, the Unity Worldwide Ministries Board. Oh my God. So, but I'll tell you, all from here, all from this community, all from the power of love right here. And so that was my big rocket, and that's why every couple years I always try to make it a point to come here and be here, because I'm so grateful for all of you. And I love this church so much. So we have big rockets like that, don't we? We have things that are lifelong dreams and achievements, or things we are deeply, deeply committed to at depth. It might be an organization, it might be a personal vocation or something that we want to change. It might be the way that we want to have an achievement in life. But those are those big, big, big rockets. And they are passionate within us. They're a flame within us that cannot be extinguished if we nurture it and feed it and if we honor it. So the other two firecrackers that I mentioned before are the Catherine wheels. Those are the sparks. And those are things that get our fire. They're things like political movements, let's say, or social justice. They're things like that. They're things like if we're in transformation, maybe we're going through therapy or we're making a big life change and we don't know where it's going, but we're really awake to the process. But we have no certainty about the outcome, but we're all over it. And so that's like a Catherine wheel that's got us really moving and energized, but also uncertain. So the fourth firecracker, if you remember, are those Roman candles. And these are the ways that we're alive from long and steady passions. There might not be big, big explosions within us, but they're steady things. Like maybe we have an undying love and passion for family or for friends, or if we have a special talent or a craft, like if we're an artist or a musician, or if we're a lifelong passion for reading or gardening or things like that. They're steady passions that are sustained over time and they're enduring. And so as we look at these four, right, the sparklers, the big rockets, the Catherine wheels, and the Roman candles, you'll see yourself and you'll see what the things are that make you alive. And I want you to know that as you start paying attention to that, you will undoubtedly feel the presence of God. And I think a really great example of someone who did that is none other than Charles Fillmore. He's one of our co-founders. He was 94 years old when he was feeling a little tired. I mean, he had accomplished a lot in his life. He had done so much with the Unity movement, but he was tired, a little weary. And so he wrote this profound statement: I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me. Can you feel that? 94 years old. And so let's affirm it together, shall we? I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me. And so allow yourself to just close your eyes for a moment and feel that power. Feel your yourself, and because your eyes are closed, I'm going to ask you to wiggle your shoulders like you're sizzling with zeal. Nobody can see you, so you can sizzle away. Just sizzle with zeal. And know that as you are sizzling, you are calling forth the Spirit and the power of God to come forward in you and do those mighty things that only you are meant to do. And in this way, you don't have to let anything stop you. You can give up worrying what other people think about you. You can give up worrying what you think about you, right? You can give up perfectionism, thinking that you can only do what you want to do if it's perfect or if you're the best. But just be you. And if you allow that Spirit of God to be in you that way, you will sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm. You can give up limitations in your mind about age and resources and time and all of that stuff. And you can let it go and be led by the Spirit of God within you. And as you do, you live the truth of who and what you are. The great writer, Emily Cady, said that all of us are individualized expressions of God. That each and every one of us carries within us a divine expression that only we can express. I always think that we traveled our life and we've had many journeys, many experiences. Some we're proud of, some we're a little quiet about, some we're excited about, some we're unresolved about. But no matter, that Spirit of God, that individualized expression of who and what you are, is that divine fire within you that yearns to come out fully and completely. Steve Jobs said, "Don't waste your time living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. Most important, have the courage to follow your own heart and your own intuition." So we're going to close with something. I want you to stand. And as you stand, I want you to really own that you are an individualized expression of God. And that who and what you are, that there is always sky above you. And the sky, you can put your hands up, the sky above you is the Spirit of God that you are open to as the truth of who you are. And you can move your feet for a moment. And that there is earth below you that is always grounding you, and that as you stand, you are standing firmly in your journey. And then you open to the fire within you. And you allow that fire to be the truth of how you live and who you are in your own right and glorious way. There is no one who has the fire quite like you. No one has walked your walk. No one has your wisdom, your courage, your beauty, your compassion quite like you. And so we allow that fire within us to go forward in a mighty, mighty way. And in doing so, we remember that everything we need is already here. Everything we need. We don't have to wait for anyone to light our fire. We already have our own matches. It is the living Spirit of God. And we, each and every one of us, is a divine, divine firecracker. So be it, and amen. Thank you.